Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agulhas Current Affairs, a marine science podcast set in Southern Africa, with me as one of your hosts, Dr. Yanis Kisson of Geekosophy Media, alongside
Dr. Nelson Miranda of Argonaut Science. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting association, an organization that's been laboring around the whole of the region where the Agulhas Current flows, which is quite cool.
Yes, we're our namesake area and the larger kind of like marine ecosystem. Have we talked about large marine ecosystems? I don't know if we have.
Not directly.
But,
So if that's something that you want to hear about as our listeners and viewers, then let us know. In fact, let us know what you want us to talk about. We'd appreciate that because we're here for you.
Exactly. Yeah. This product is for you. But yeah, so we on the west of the Indian Ocean and kind of more on the south side, so it's like Southwest Indian, and we abbreviate that to like SWIO, especially in our communications about the area. SWIO. But one of the major organizations that kind of head up research and kind of connect researchers in that area, in that space, is WIOMSA.
Yeah.
What does WIOMSA stand for?
Well, it's the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association.
Yes, so everything that's kind of wet and salty in the Western Indian Ocean, and it's kind of what they deal with. And of course, they kind of try to bring scientists together, try and organize funding, try and kind of orientate researchers as to like what to focus on, select research directives, and of course come together every now and then, as most bodies of academics do, and have a conference so that everybody can find out what everybody is doing. So why don't you give us an overall idea of WIOMSA and what goes on there?
Well, I'm just a humble member of WIOMSA. I've been a member of WIOMSA for a number of years now, and I've attended a number of their conferences as well. They're one of the best conferences that you can attend. Really cool stuff. They hold them in different places along the Western Indian Ocean region. There was one, and in the islands, that includes the islands as well, which is actually of strategic importance. Their overall mission involves coordination. They want to coordinate. They want there to be coordination amongst scientists throughout the entire region, and that means interdisciplinary work, and work across countries and huge areas. The history of this organization is quite interesting. So they're physically based in Zanzibar in Tanzania, and it's a non-profit organization. It was established in 1994, right? And the countries that are part of this association or organization include Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Comoros, Madagascar, Seychelles, Mauritius, and Reunion as well. French always getting there as well.
Holiday destinations.
Yeah, that does sound like Highland holidays, don't they? So the really cool thing about this organization is, apart from the symposia, which and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, is that they also provide, funding. All right. So if you're a researcher in the area, right, if you're in the social sciences, if you're in the marine science in any way, shape, or form, please consider WIOMSA and their funding sort of streams. They have a really cool sort of setup where the funding can be small, or it can be large, or it can be specific only for travel, or it can be specific to a project. And so if you look at the WIOMSA website, you will find more information about their funding streams. What do you think about that, Jonas? Have you used them before?
Yes, I went to the WIOMSA that was at Mozambique, I think 2013. It was the first time that I was out of the country. But that was 10 years ago, so I don't remember much about it. I just remember that at that time, I was doing, or I did like ecophysiological work for most of my career. But at these conferences, at the time that I was going, I was like one of maybe two people who had like ecophysiological work. Actually, I can't remember which one it was, but I remember maybe the 2011 SAMs. There were like two ecophysiological studies, and like one of them was mine, my little like clownfish study. Another was Anusha about the mangrove stuff that she did. And I think over the years, I think ecophysiology has started to come back now. I think it was like big in the 80s, and they kind of dropped off when like ecology became more popular. And I think it's starting to pick up now that we have like new techniques and stuff. So on your recent trip to WIOMSA, which happened in Gqeberha, formerly known as Port Elizabeth, what sort of changes in the kind of research are you seeing? That's like where's the shift in direction happening more recently in that conference?
Well, the latest conference was held in this year, 2022, in Gqeberha. Yes, let's all say it together. Can you say this? Can you say this? Gqeberha. Gqeberha. I think it would be really fun for us all to say it.
Interaction on this podcast.
Yeah.
Together.
So that's 3, 2, 1. Gqeberha. And that's in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, the province Eastern Cape, and it was previously known as Port Elizabeth, or PE, as some of you might remember. And it was again wonderful, as you can expect from every conference that WIOMSA puts together in terms of participation from the region. I mean, you have people from all over different countries in Africa. It's a melting pot of culture. It's a melting pot of friendship and a lot of opportunities for networking and collaboration. And just interesting to hear about what people are doing. And there's various topics that range from quite serious sort of governance and legislation and law to arts, the involvement in arts, in science, and science communication, is definitely a thing that was part of this conference, but in the form of storytelling. So that was really interesting. That storytelling is becoming quite an important sort of topic in African science, because, I mean, that's what we actually do as scientists. We do actually tell stories in our own very specific way, right? But it is a story. So the scientific publication at the end of the day tells a story. And that story can be retold in many ways, shapes, and forms. By many people, and that's what we like in terms of science communication. But it's really, that connection hasn't been made very strongly yet, in my view. So we're still saying science communication is one thing, and then storytelling is another thing. And I think we'll talk about it in more detail in another session.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to see that at the symposium. So the specific objectives of the symposium, presenting current knowledge, right? Providing a forum for discussion, exchange of information and experiences, and then provide interaction among social and natural scientists to strengthen multi- and transdisciplinary research for sustainable management of coastal and marine environments of the Western Indian Ocean region. and then also to identify gaps for further research for the future. This symposium this year in 2022 was really interesting as well, because there was also a change in leadership. So there's new leadership now in this organization. So there were votes, and there was an election of new board of new president and new board members as well, which it's really, it was almost like a very cool historical event happening. It was awesome to be part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I was, I didn't attend with you guys, but I was keeping an eye on like the social media for WIOMSA. I was quite impressed by the kind of the scientists that were participating in like trying to open up the conversation in the broader scope, like not just at the conference, but to their like followers and colleagues that weren't present. So I had like a pretty good idea of like what was going on, at least from the SciComm side, because like my big hobby is science communication. This podcast is one of the things. So I follow like Judy Mann Lang and others, like big science communicators and science people do a lot of science outreach for marine science, and they were all kind of repeating that kind of call that there was for more science communication. But I found it very interesting that you got a point, like even if you just write a scientific paper, that's still technically science communication. It's just to a specific audience. Audiences, other people like you, like other scientists, even sometimes a very, very neat, like a subset of scientists. But it doesn't mean that's not communication. But on the other hand, the problem is that only caters towards that group, and other people, everyday people, need to know some of these things, because it's very important to the decisions that they make in their everyday life, whether it's like what they buy when they go to the grocery store, or how they're going to vote for the next leadership. So it is one of those big questions that a lot of scientists who work in these fields, where they look at things that are important to everyday, like human life. How do you get that message across? So from that standpoint, I was quite impressed, especially compared to other conferences that I went to, where it was like radio silence on the outside, which was kind of like, to me, it was confusing. It's like 2022, like they should be firing on all channels, like all cylinders. But I think it was fairly easy to actually keep up with what like everything was going on at WIOMSA. Like all the researchers in their various fields were kind of like live tweeting like the presentations and stuff, which was I thought was pretty cool and kind of more new when it comes to this kind of conferences.
Listen, it was encouraged. We sat in the main hall for the main keynote speeches at the beginning of the day, and they literally told us, "Okay, take out your phones." Everyone takes out their phone. Go to Twitter and tweet something, and hashtag, WIOMSA, So it was definitely encouraged and called for, which was, it was interesting. It was interesting. Well, it definitely encouraging.
See how some of it could be abrasive.
Yeah. Some people are like, no, I'll tweet if I want to. But there was definitely a lot of tweeting and really good stuff happening. And if you want to check it out, I'm sure you can find them on Twitter. Also, big up for Nelson Mandela University and the Ocean Science Campus, because they were the hosts as well. And it was actually really cool to visit the Ocean Science Campus again, where we used to be at back in the
Origin
day.
Story.
Did you know that they now have they call it a dive column? There's a new wing that was built, and they basically built a vertical well, with little windows, and in this well there's water that you can dive in. So we couldn't resist, and we actually dove in there. So you can also check that out if you search for some of our stories.
How deep is it?
It is 8 meters deep. 8 meters. Okay. Yeah. and you can
And
stand on
it
the
like
ground
simulates
floor.
conditions.
Yeah, you can stand on the ground floor and you can see, people at 8 meters, which is cool. So it can be used for training and to test equipment. That was the initial sort of intent for it. And we are definitely interested in doing some courses in it, because there's a hyperbaric chamber that's being used by a doctor in the just nearby, and then there's this dive column, and those things are actually connected, and this could be an opportunity for a lot of interesting work with diving, and for health as well, because the hyperbaric chamber is actually a treatment. It helps with treatment, and with quick recovery from all sorts of things, including serious injuries. So it was a lot of fun to actually have a little mini tour of the area, and we actually got into the tank as well. We saw some people. It's a very large hyperbaric chamber. Like because they vary in size, and there were like 4 people in there, plus like an assistant or a doctor or a nurse as well, and they were all playing the game Uno. So they were playing card games and waiting for the session to be over. So it was quite interesting to see that. So yeah, lots of interesting things happening in Gqeberha and Nelson Mandela University and in the Western Indian Ocean in general. So I definitely recommend that people have a look at WIOMSA, because they really have their finger on the pulse when it comes to African research in this region.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, so you can go follow at WIOMSA or WIOMSA 2022. I'll put links in the description. If you don't want to do that, you should do that. But you can also follow us at Agulhas Current on Twitter, at Agulhas Current Affairs on other platforms. You can follow me at Geekoscopy. Over to you, Nelson.
And you can follow me at Argonaut Science.
Interesting things at WIOMSA. But otherwise, cheers.